All it would take would be one death, one child death in the province of Ontario, and believe me, they would move very quickly to mandate every taxi to have a car seat. Apparently taxis are exempt. In speaking with Susan Jones from the city of Ottawa, if she had the opportunity to talk to the Minister of Transportation provincially, she would want the power to impound illegal taxis that are operating. So one thing I've learned from Susan is that there is an illegal taxi industry, and I know certainly in Toronto at the airport there are scoopers, but elsewhere people are operating that are unlicensed, that could even be driving with a suspended driver's license. And while there are provisions under our Highway Traffic Act to prosecute these individuals, the police very rarely do. It's not a priority for them, so municipal bylaw enforcement officers really don't have the jurisdiction. So there's something that would obviously be something positive for regulators in the province of Ontario to be given the power to impound illegal taxis. Another recommendation is that regulators are asking for assistance with timely police record checks for vulnerable sector searches, similar to a similar issue in the United States. So right now, with respect to taxi and livery drivers, there could be a 3 or 4 month delay, and certainly there's a way to speed that up. If a police officer can do a check almost immediately, certainly municipal regulators should be able to do that in order to ensure that people driving taxis are qualified. As far as the provincial government is concerned, I'm here representing Wheelchair Accessible Transit, one of the leading accessible transportation companies in Ontario. And they are very much impacted by a piece of provincial legislation, as are all taxi companies in the province of Ontario, where there's a piece of legislation called the AODA, where they're going to regulate or require a certain percentage of taxis in the province to be accessible. And my client, Wheelchair Accessible Transit, has a plan that they're putting forward that would eventually see 1,300 ambassador plates all being wheelchair accessible. And eventually there's no reason why in the province of Ontario there's no reason why every taxi couldn't be wheelchair accessible. Now, again, that's the provincial government will be requiring municipalities to provide that level of service to the disabled in the province, and they're passing that responsibility on to municipalities to determine how to implement that recommendation. Another thing I learned that in the province of Ontario, there's as I said, there's no requirement that taxi drivers be trained. There are issues dealing with the airport. This has been an ongoing issue, certainly with the Toronto airport, and probably similarly in other jurisdictions where there's a whole separate regime at the airport, and the Toronto taxi cab drivers can deliver to the airport, but they can't pick up from the airport. So there are issues there, and I'm not sure exactly what regulators are saying in the province of Ontario, what changes would be necessary there. So these are just some highlights of a potential legislative agenda for ITR in Canada. And obviously before any effort is put forward to begin a process of lobbying the provincial and municipal levels of government, ITR would obviously want to hear from you. Karen has distributed cards to the table. So those of you that are Canadian regulators, please ask yourself the question, what changes would I like to see? What would organization, my municipality, what changes would we like to see in order for us to do our job more effectively in the public interest in your respective jurisdictions. So those are my comments. I'm happy to answer any questions that people might have at this point. I'll pass the microphone over to our intrepid leader, Matt.